welcome to a special episode of Behind the Start Lines. I'm Troy Schooley, the CEO of P3R, and I have a special guest host with me today, Bob Shooer, the co-owner of Fleet Feet. Bob, thanks for taking the time out for this special podcast. I was just thinking, you're the only person that has been on our podcast twice. So first off, congratulations to that.
Well, thank you. That's really what I'm so honored about today is being on the podcast twice. But on a serious note, thanks for having me today to talk about the Fleet Feet Liberty Mile and the experience we just all went through this past Friday night.
Yeah, let's dive into that, Bob. A record year, over 1,300 participants. Tell me a little bit about, because I know how I was feeling. Tell me a little bit about Friday night and what kind of the feeling was down on Penn Avenue, especially at that start line.
Yeah. All you had to do was be there to feel the energy and the excitement. The return to in-person racing. This was basically the reintroduction of racing to the city of Pittsburgh. And the one thing I love about the Fleet Feet Liberty Mile is just the community component of it. People of all ages, young and old and kids, people with their pets and their dogs. And it's such a family-oriented event, but it all revolves around fitness and the desire to be outside and enjoy the community. So it was a really thrilling evening for me, I will tell you that.
You know what? I've been trying to think of the adjectives to describe, Friday night. And I think the one I always come up with is just electric. It started really early that day. I mean, me and you were having the conversation 4 or 5 p.m. and people started coming into Market Square, picking up their bibs. And a lot of people were registering that day, which was exciting. Yeah. But then as we got closer, just that feeling that, I know me and you, Bob, have missed, but obviously thousands of runners have missed that as well. And just the buzz around downtown, not just with the runners, but like you said, the kids, the dogs, the spectators. Bob, what about Liberty? What about Liberty Avenue? How about the I couldn't believe it. I've never seen it like that.
It was unbelievable. When I looked at some of the pictures that were published afterward in the local newspapers, it was just unbelievable. The number of people and the cheering and the energy. The weather was perfect that night. It couldn't have been better. So you're right. Electric is the best word to describe just the level of energy that we had out there.
Yeah, I remember looking down Liberty, and I don't even know if it was one of the elite heats. I think it was like the Unstoppable. And there was people coming onto Liberty Avenue just to get a peek of the runners. I'm like, man, there's a lot of people down here. So it's always good when you have to put spectators back because you have a ton of them.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Speaking of perfect weather, we had some really fast times. It was the fastest, not only was it the largest Liberty Mile, Fleet Feet Liberty Mile, but it was the fastest. Sinclair Johnson broke a course record. And then Vince Ciattei, who's going to be our special guest, coming in with a 3:58 plus some, unbelievable fast times with everybody.
It really was unbelievable. The conditions were ideal. The course was clear and the elites really ran some spectacular times. The level of competition in both the women's and men's heats, when you saw them all grouped together, I happened to be holding the finish line tape as the men were coming in. And they came charging through that finish line as a group. So I had to very quickly move back just to get out of their way, but it was a spectacular sight.
Yeah, I mean, both men's and women's. I mean, Sinclair just unbelievable at 4:26 was just something just unbelievable. In the men's, like you said, holding that tape, there was 3 or 4 guys under 4-minute miles. I mean, they were just flying, just unbelievable. And then, I think, we're going to have Vince come on here in a couple minutes, but I think my favorite part of the night was the podium ceremony in the middle of Liberty Avenue with all the personality. Bob, I know you know this, but tell the listeners just a little bit about how the milers are as far as personality. Like these guys and girls they're crazy.
They really are something. It's always a thrill for us to have the elite athletes here at the store, and we usually have them here on the Thursday night prior to the race. But they are crazy and they are fun. And when we first started sponsoring the Liberty Mile many years ago, before we were the title partners, we used to set up a table and have the elite athletes sit at the table, and then people would come up and they'd sign autographs or autograph their jersey or their shoes or whatever. But that was just sort of flat. And so we decided, let's do away with the table. And we have these milers behind the cash wrap, helping to bag merchandise for people, joking around with people. Their personalities are really amazing. And they add so much energy to the store when they're here. A lot of people don't know who they are by name, but they're not afraid to like just get down and talk to the customers as they walk in and just have fun with them.
Right. And I think that's what our sport needs so much, is a bunch of athletes like that they can essentially self-brand themselves. So, that high school kid, he saw Craig Engels in your store, and now, speaking of a crazy dude, that's a whole different story. We got to have him on the podcast. But I mean, just, they understand and they're self-aware as far as this, how important self-branding is for the sport, because they can make more money, and they can, lead even more. So I think that all the athletes that we had in, like you said, into the store, throughout the week, I know some of them went out to the different schools and did different runs. I mean, it's so important. And it was great to see, really, as the athletes get back to the start line as well. So, Bob, without further ado, let's bring on the 2021 Fleet Feet Liberty Mile men's champion, Vince Ciattei. Thank you, Vince, for joining us this morning. So let's just rewind. Let's rewind to Friday night. First Fleet Feet Liberty Mile for you. What thoughts? Just give me that recap from a runner's perspective.
It was, I've only run one road mile before. First time running the Fleet Feet one, so it was definitely, excited and also nervous about sort of how to spread my effort over the course of the race. You don't have the usual, even on the course, like when you had 400 to go, you can see the finish line the whole time. Like it's a little bit tough to judge really when to go, versus the track. So I tried to keep all that in mind as I was mentally preparing, but the atmosphere was amazing. I mean, like sort of having that narrow, like it felt like, as the road narrowed towards the finish line, the crowd got closer and also got bigger, so that sort of tunnel effect driving to the finish was, I think, a big part of why I could sort of summon that, final gear and win from the front. And it was, I'll definitely cherish that race forever. It's awesome.
Well, tell us a little bit about that last 400. The men's race was super tight. You guys were in a pack pretty much the whole race. You talk about the crowd. What gave you that extra kick to tie a course record at 3:59? Really 3:58:39, but USATF, you're 3:59. Unbelievable race.
Yeah, I've watched the race videos that I could of the Fleet Feet one in the past, and I've watched Fifth Ave and other races, and it often seems like the person with the last move is gonna win. That's sort of the plan that I wanted to have, and then that more or less went out the window when I was already leading with 400 to go. So I sort of switched up, but I had, we weren't really going. And then with about 400, I felt Craig Nowak, coming up on my right side. So I tried to match that move. And then I felt Craig Engels and Colby coming back up on my left side. So it was more just not as much me dictating when to go as more just like once I hit 400 with the lead, I said, well, I don't have time to relinquish this if I want to win. So it's either it's either hold off the moves that other people make, or, because I don't think I would have had time to say, oh, I'll let him go and then try to come back again. That would be tough. So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm proud that I was able to do it from the front.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see it. I was at the finish line, holding the tape, watching this pack of guys coming at me, and the crowds were fantastic along the course, but it was the level of competition that energized the crowds like I've never seen before at the Liberty Mile. Just so much fan and crowd engagement as we saw this time. You guys put on quite a show, I will tell you that. So during the warm-up, I had heard that a few of you got lost while trying to run the course. Did that affect you at all? Or do you think it helped in some way?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have to go and like recreate that at future road miles now. Cause yeah, like I was sort of trying to knock out, like, based on the timing of things, I tried to knock out my pre-race routine, like on the day of the race, like right before the technical meeting. Mm-hmm. And I went out in the first bit and I didn't have my phone. So I was clearly just a little too confident in my own abilities to make one turn and then come back. Because I think I went too far right or something. I was freaking out a little bit. So I don't know if that, like, maybe it gave me some extra adrenaline, like early in the day that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But yeah, I just about found my way back in time for I just didn't want to miss the meeting either. So I was glad I got back for that. But yeah, I was just, I don't know why I didn't run without my phone. I think just like the city, I'm not as familiar with Pittsburgh. So,
right, of course.
Yeah. But it was a little bit of an extra adrenaline spike early in the race day.
Very cool.
Talk a little bit about the field, and you mentioned three big names earlier as we were talking about the last 400. You're a big time runner, Virginia Tech, several competition wins, obviously your first road win. But when you show up at a technical meeting or come into town and you see Craig Engels, you see Colby's name, you see Nowak's, you see this laundry list of just unbelievable athletes, 1,500 milers. What led you to the win? And I'm not saying that you were an underdog, but sure. When you come across a field like that, you got to be thinking, man, I got to run fast. Tell me just the thought process behind seeing some of those big names.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year is the first year, even at Virginia Tech, I think I tended to stay under the radar, even with my championship performances, because I never really had the one fast time to sort of back those up. And I had two, individual silver medals at NCAAs, which I'm, really proud of. But I never had a real quick 1,500 time. I was always just better usually at the championship racing. And this year I ran 3:34 before the Olympic trials. I had my standard and I was ranked like 5th or 6th time wise in the US going into the trials. That really helped me reset my focus, thinking like, okay, I can belong with some of these guys. And, but then I didn't race that way at the trials. So coming off the trials and, what I wanted to, one of the big things I wanted to get out of this summer was competing to the level that I thought I could. And that meant, certainly respecting those guys' names. Like, I mean, even for example, when I ran that 3:34, Craig Engels was the one that won that race in 3:33. Like the weekend before this race, I ran a 1:46 800 PR, which I was really happy with. But I also watched Colby run 3:33 from the front, which was incredibly impressive. So, I knew that these guys were in good form, and I actually was happy that the field was strong because, I felt like the one piece that I may have been missing, retrospectively looking back at the trials, I had a good time trial run, but I hadn't run these high. This road mile, this Fleet Feet, this is a championship level race with those guys. So, and I hadn't had a lot of those type of races, like just focus on winning, really since Virginia Tech, to be perfectly honest. So, I was very proud to come away with the win against that caliber of field, for sure.
Can we call this the coming out party for Vince Ciattei, the 2021 Fleet Feet Liberty Mile?
I hope so. Yeah, I think just getting that, whether it was conscious or subconscious, like, I hadn't crossed the line in first yet, like, and to boil the sport down to its simplest form, like that's what you're trying to do every time you start a race. So, to do it in this race is, I really think I'll draw a lot of confidence from that moving forward.
Great.
It's fantastic. Hey, something that I'll never experience is people coming up to me and asking for my autograph, or asking to have their photo taken with me. How did that feel for you after this win?
It was awesome. Like, I didn't even expect it. I mean, because I still, like, even winning the race, like, I still know that, like, like Craig Engels is, like, he's the star. Like, and I mean, he's done a great job, not only for, like, being fast and, having great success with, 2019 USA's, like, other races, but, he's built a brand, like, and he does a great job with it. Like, he's great for the sport. And, I haven't had that sort of success to, catapult me to that sort of following, but, races like this where, having the success obviously was good, but also, getting to meet people afterwards, like, seeing them, like, put the pictures up with me, like, on Instagram and stuff, like signing it, like, a finisher's medal, like, that was really quite neat, and not something that I was, necessarily thinking about beforehand, but, part of the experience that I'll, remember just as much as the race. It was really cool.
Well, we're all really proud of you, and you truly are an ambassador for this sport. And I loved having you here at the store and watching you perform at such an amazingly high level.
Yeah,
thanks, Bob. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Vince, you're a true champion. 2021 Fleet Feet Liberty Mile champion. We look forward to having you back in Pittsburgh for the 2022 to defend that title.
Yeah, I hope to have a world team
to
be competing for, and we'll see how the schedules work out, but as long as it can work out, I'd love to be back. Having a title to defend is something that I haven't had since college either. So that's a really exciting prospect.
Well, we appreciate you coming on Behind the Line today, and we'll see you soon. Let us know if you need anything here at P3R. Congrats again, Vince. You did a great job.
Thanks for having me, Troy and Bob. The event was awesome, and I really appreciate it, guys.
Great. Thanks, Best Vince. Of luck this year, Vince.
Let's welcome our second guest of the day, Jacqui Pressley, a P3R runner. Jacqui, thanks for joining the podcast today.
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me, Troy. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Jacqui, I saw you on Friday, probably around 4:30 or 5 p.m. You were ready to race then. Tell me a little bit about the preparation leading up to that start line. I won't say our conversation, but tell me a little bit about the conversation that we had and the excitement that was leading to that.
Well, Troy, as you know, with the conversation that I had, I was just so excited. I could not wait. I had butterflies in my stomach that entire day. In fact, I had butterflies in my stomach for days leading up to Friday night. Yeah. I hadn't stopped running really throughout the entire pandemic. I had been injured actually towards the end of 2019. So I was actually trading up for live races. They didn't happen. I kept going in case one became live. But up until the Liberty Mile on Friday, I just kept on running. I just kept doing my thing. Just kept, I've been keeping fit for many, many years, and the excitement, as we got closer and closer to that starting line on Friday night, the butterflies just kept floating around my stomach, and then they were flying.
Right. What about, so one of my favorite pictures of the weekend, besides, honestly, probably maybe my favorite, is seeing all the P3 runners at the PR bell. Tell us a little bit about, kind of the community that you guys have built to encourage the region to run, and how special it was for all of you who have been talking virtually, sharing Instagram stories to get back to a live start line. Oh gosh.
I really have been given a gift, actually, by being selected as a P3R runner. The community itself is amazing, but the P3R runners who have been selected for this year are just amazing people in their own right. We're all self-motivated, I think, to some degree, but we all need each other as well. If it hadn't been for the pandemic, I don't think that we would have been as close as we had been. We fed off each other for a good, like you said, 20 months, 20 months. We needed each other, and we just kept each other going, and we got to finally meet each other on Friday night. So I think that whole entire time we just kept keeping each other going.
So Jacqui, when was your last in-person race with P3R prior to this? And did you run virtually during that 20-month period? Or tell me a little bit about like what you did during that downtime when in-person races were not occurring.
Oh, sure. My last in-person race was the Great Race 2019. And I actually had been injured, so I really needed to take a break after the Great Race. But the virtual races kept me going. They kept giving me a goal to attain, kept my fitness going. So I just kept, throughout the entire pandemic, I would sign up for another race. Okay, I got that one done. Would sign up for another race, got that one done. And it just really just kept me motivated and kept me going throughout the entire 20 months. But so glad to be back. I really am.
It's great to have you back, and it's great that the Fleet Feet Liberty Mile was the intro back to in-person racing in the city.
It was the perfect race. It really was. It was the perfect race to kick us off.
So along those lines,
I agree.
I'm sorry, Troy. What was like going on in the start line corrals? Like, what were people saying? What were people? I've never, I'm not in the corrals anymore, and I'm always curious because there seemed to be such an electricity and such a high level of energy. How is everyone feeling? What were you hearing?
Oh, we're finally back. We are back. We're so excited. Let's just get this moving. Let's just get it started. Let's just go. You're right. Energy was truly electrifying. It was so high energy, and we were just all raring to go. Just come on, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
So were we. Jacqui, I saw you at the finish line. Give me an adjective to describe that finish line feel that you had, because I know it was something special. I see you getting emotional now about it. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that, at that finish line.
It was almost, it's almost undescribable.
Yeah.
I'm actually on my own, don't have family in the area, and you are my family.
Yeah.
You're part of my family, my secondary family. Of course, I have my immediate family as number one, and then you come in. I just felt like the floodgates opened up and we are back in action. It was just, we made it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I think that's a great description, is we made it, not just not just the runners, but, the P3R staff and really the region, as far as wellness goes. And I honestly, I think that the P3 runners, and Jacqui, I follow you on Instagram and you have a great following. But what you do to encourage other runners, to get out and move with you. And I think you document your struggles very fairly, meaning that you have your good days and there's days that you struggle and you talk about it, and I think that's what I think that's great for, the running community, because not every day is going to be good when you're out for a run, or when you
Sure.
run your first mile back. I think that's super important. So
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for all that you do. Before I let you go, though, I thought this was super special. So Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, you said Carrie, one of the P3 runners, is from Arkansas?
Oh, Kristen. Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
tell me about that. I was shocked,
Oh,
and I loved hearing that story. Bob, I don't know if I didn't tell you this story, but it's
Nah.
awesome.
yeah. One of our P3R runners, Kristen Lippincott, she flew in from Arkansas just for this race. In fact, we had some other P3R runners that drove in from a fair distance, and she flew in, obviously,
Yeah.
for this race. She's originally from this area, but had moved to Arkansas a few years ago and just came in just for the race. And we got an opportunity to spend some time with her this weekend. We actually went on a run on Saturday morning as well, too. It was just such an amazing, phenomenal feeling. It really was.
Yeah, you told me, I forget. Yeah, that story. I couldn't believe that she flew in for the mile.
Yeah,
but I think that
very
just shows
cool.
the excitement. I think that shows what we have moving forward. Not just at P3, I'm just talking about movement in general. And people are excited to get back moving at a live start line and having that emotion that Jacqui felt. And frankly, all the P3 runners and, all the kids and the adults and the dogs. It was just a crazy night. It was great to get back.
It really was. The kids are the best too. They're the ones that keep us all going, right? They're just, so, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, raring to go. They were just great to see.
Right. The next generation came out in full effect at the Fleet Feet Liberty Mile this year. I mean, there's always been a good, kids group, but, over 200 kids under the age of 18. And I swear that, Bob, you were at the finish line with me. There was a ton of kids under the age of 5 and 6 that I saw finishing, which was awesome.
It was amazing to watch. And they're smiling like, if I were crossing the finish line, I'd be like huffing and puffing, and they're smiling and they're happy. And it was like their first foray into running, and they're high-fiving all the finish line folks. And it was amazing. It really was amazing.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, I actually slowed down at one point too, just to cheer on a little girl who was probably 5 years old, and she was running really, really fast, and then she slowed down, and then she was running really, really fast and slowed down. It was so fun to see.
Yeah, it was a great kids turnout on Friday night as well. Well, Jacqui, thank you so much for joining Behind the Start Line with us on this special episode, just kind of recapping the 2021 Fleet Feet Liberty Mile. I also want to thank you all for all that you do just with the P3 runners in that community. It means a lot, not just to P3R, but it means a lot to Bob and Fleet Feet. It means a lot to our region to keep people moving. That's our goal, and you do inspire us to move with you. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, you keep me going too. So thank you.
Well, it's mutual. Well, thanks for joining us, Jacqui. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you, Jacqui. We will see you at a start line very soon.
Yes, you most certainly will.
Definitely.
I just know that now. Before I'd be like, yeah, we'll see you at a start line soon, but we didn't know when. We have 8 events for the P3 runners in the whole entire region, over the next couple of months. So I'm sure I'll see you at multiple start lines very soon.
You most certainly will. Looking forward to it.
We will be seeing a lot of each other.
Yeah. You'll be sick of me. All right. You take care. Thanks again.
Have a good rest of the week.
All right, bye-bye.
Well, Bob, 2 great guests, the men's champion of the 2021 Fleet Feet Liberty Mile, and Jacqui Pressley, P3R runner, who's obviously very excited to get back to a live start line. And she was out on Friday night showing that off. So any closing thoughts, Bob, on not just our 2 guests, but just the wrap on the 2021 Fleet Feet Liberty Mile?
Yeah, I can't wait till next year. It's this year was just great. And when I think about P3R and what you've done to get people moving and to keep the city active, the city has not always been known as the most active city. And P3R and you have come along and really just helped get people moving. At Fleet Feet, one of our core values is to inspire the runner in everyone. So working with P3R on this particular event is really just it's right down our alley, and we really enjoy it. We're looking forward to doing this again next year and continuing to grow this event to 1,500 and 2,000 runners at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if this year was any sign of what's to come, not just with the Fleet Feet Liberty Mile, Bob, but you're involved with a lot of the P3R races and just running in our region. There's a lot of great things to come. So, we're super excited to get into the fall season, especially with this being our first live event, in 20 months. So, Bob, I want to thank you. Actually, before we leave today, Bob, I have watched both men's and women's races probably 5 or 6 times on not just the Facebook page, which is the Fleet Feet Liberty Mile, but the Run with P3R Instagram page. So if anybody out there listening wants to see an unbelievable 4.5 minutes of racing live, it was very well done by our team and commentated by Ryan Hogan, who's our lead coordinator. So everybody go on and check that out. It's only 4 minutes. It's short, it's sweet, but you get to see the best athletes in the world. Just really, and then honestly, you get to see Bob Shooer holding the tape and like you said, the men blowing by him. So don't forget to go check that out. And we'll be starting season 3 of Behind the Start Line in September. And maybe Bob, we'll have you back on and you can do a 3-peat on Behind the Start Line.
I'm all in for that.
All right, great. Have a great day, Bob. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Troy.
See you.